What's up guys, this is Mdot. Welcome back to another You Can Fly High video. In this one we're going to be going over NISHINOYA's kit, his skill resonances, and his memory. So without further ado, let's just get started. Okay, starting off for his skills. Skill 1, Peak Explosiveness. NISHINOYA's reflex and receive increased by 10% and 12% respectively. When an opponent lands a critical hit, NISHINOYA's reflex increases by 2%, backing up to 10 times, lasting for 6 net crossings. I think this is a really huge buff in terms of this kit. So this one, you're getting a reflex 10% here, and then another 2 times 10 is 20%, so another 20% here. So 30% reflex just from skill 1 if you can get the max stacks, which again, this is very conditional in terms of if your opponent can land the critical hit, so it depends on what team you're facing. So keep that in mind. But again, this reflex buff is very useful, very high in terms of a skill. Okay, skill 2, a set. NISHINOYA performs a set with power equal to 140% of his set stat. NISHINOYA's awareness increases by 100% of his reflex stat for 2 net crossings, and your team's set skill cooldowns are reduced by 2 net crossings. So this is, I think it's a very useful skill, kind of like Tomori's set skill. This is more so useful for, I guess, your setter rather than, the person that you're setting it to, right? So in terms of setting, his reflex increases by 100% of his awareness increases by 100% of his reflex. So when you're building him, you want to build as much reflex as you can. Try to get to 100 or as close as you can to 100, so you can take advantage of this awareness increase here. So he's able to crit on his set as well. But then I think the main or the most useful part of this skill is this part where your team's set skill cooldowns are reduced by 2 net crossings, right? So you have other people that can set, obviously your setter, maybe sometimes you're running dual setter, or multiple setters. He's able to reduce that cooldown for all your setters, your whole team, whoever has a set skill. So this is really good. It'll be also very useful in the future when you have other people that have set skills, such as, SPO Samu, who has a set skill, as well as obviously your other setters. So yeah, this is a pretty good skill. It's not as useful right now as it would be later on in this game's lifetime. Okay, skill 3, Touch Player. NISHINOYA's spirit increases by 25%. When your team performs a critical ball touch, the cooldown of Kick Save, his ultimate, is reduced by 1 net crossing. When NISHINOYA uses his ultimate after another ultimate has already been used this round, his spirit increases by 60%, stacking up to 2 times, lasting for 1 round. So, based off of this skill, he's best played on teams that can crit a lot, or you want to be critting on any type of action, right? So either your defensive actions, your offensive actions, so if you spike, serve, that receive, block, anything that crits, he's able to reduce his cooldown by 1 net crossing. So that's pretty big, right? And because he's reducing his cooldown very often, hopefully, if you have a crit type team, he's able to use his ultimate again. And if you use your ultimate, a second time in the same rally, his spirit increases by 60%. And then if he uses it one more time within that same rally, it increases by another 60. So you're getting 120% spirit, and it lasts until the end of the round. So this is very conditional. You just have to make sure that the team that you play him in is able to crit as much as possible. Keep that in mind. And for his ultimate Kick Save, NISHINOYA performs a receive with power equal to 260% of his receive stat. NISHINOYA's receive and reflex increased by 20% and 20% respectively, lasting for 2 net crossings. So again, this is another buff, as well as obviously the receive itself. So similar to your skill 1 where you're getting 16 and 18 here for reflex and receive, you're getting another 20 and 20 respectively. So this is, I believe, when he activates the ultimate, he gets this reflex and receive buff. So Again, another high receive and reflex buff here. So again, if you're here at max stacks, you're at 30. And then when you ultimate, he gets a 20% reflex increase. So you have 50% reflex, which is already higher than most players in this game so far, just from his kit. No, not even potentials as well. So this is a really good buff, and it does play into his kit. So this is good since he'll be buffing himself very highly and also very often if you're able to ultimate multiple times in one rally. Okay, let's move on to skill resonance. There's SR2, touch player condition modified. Change from when your players touch the ball with exceptional performance to when players from both sides touch the ball with exceptional performance. And peak explosiveness condition modified when opponent's players perform exceptionally to when players from both sides touch the ball with exceptional performance. And kick save, the maximum cooldown is reduced to 5 net crossings. So I think this is a really good skill res 2. It really just modifies his kit so that he doesn't rely on specific things anymore. You are still relying on crits, but instead of each skill relying on a specific team to crit, now it's both teams. So whenever your side crits or whenever your opponent's crit, both skills that rely on the team critting will be taking effect in terms of the cooldown and stuff like that, whatever the buff is, right? So right here, when an opponent's lands a critical hit, so now when either you or your opponent lands a critical hit, you'll get this buff. And then this one, when your team performs a critical ball touch, now it's when either you or your opponent performs a critical ball touch, the cooldown is reduced. So he gets both benefits off of the skill too. And then also your cooldown is reduced to 5 net crossing. So right now at SR1, if you don't have SR2, it's at 8. But if you get to your SR2, it'll be down to 5, which means you can ult way more often. Okay, skill res 4. While Nishinoya is on the court, your team's reflex increases by 15%. When Nishinoya receives an opponent's power spike, the power of that receive increases by 50% of his receive stat. When Nishinoya's receive result is not bad, the cooldown of your team's next spike skill is reduced by 2 net crossing after it's cast. So in my opinion, this SR4 is, I think, the better of the skill resonance 4 between Nishinoya and Komori. For example, this first part of the SR4 here, when he's on the court, your team's reflex increases by 15%. If you look at Komori's here, the allied back row plays reflex increase by 15%. So this is just their back row compared to Nishinoya's full team buff. And then he increases, in terms of Komori, he increases the, he gives your receiver buffs, right? In terms of strength, his strength increases by 50% of reflex up to 6%, that's 2 net crossing. So he increases your player's strength whenever he receives for 2 net crossings there. But for Nishinoya, this is specifically a self buff in terms of receive. So when he receives a power spike, he increased that receive by 50% of his receive stat, right? So it's an extra 50% power there. And then when he's not a bad receive, next spike skills cooldown is reduced by 2 net crossing. So this is really good in terms of, because of the cooldown here. So if you have a main dedicated spiker and you usually have to wait for his cooldown to be to complete before spiking again, he's able to reduce the cooldown. So he's not the best libero for any spiker who can reduce his own cooldown. For example, like Bokuto or like Ushijima. And if you're going to be using him in club contest, like the Orange Strand club contest, it's not going to be that great for RN because RN doesn't have a cooldown anyways. So keep that in mind if you're running an SR4 Nishinoya. But then again, this reflex buff is really, really good for defense teams. And then he's able to increase his own power of his receives right here as well. Okay, let's move on to the potentials. As you can see, I am running the 4-piece Forceful Guard and 2-piece Assist Receive. I do think the 4-piece Forceful Guard is his best in slot in terms of the 4-piece set. And then the 2-piece can be either this one, this Assist Receive, or the other one, Supreme Receive, right? The main reason why you probably want to be going, or to be using Forceful Guard instead of the 4-piece Assist Receive is because the conditions are very, well, this one is more conditional in terms of achieving a perfect receive, which is not as often, compared to this one where you're achieving a critical receive, right? Or critical block, but that doesn't matter, NISHINOYA. So he's going to be, because his reflex is so high, he's going to be achieving a lot of critical receives. So you're getting this buff, this power buff way more often than you would be getting this perfect receive buff here. So yeah, 4-piece Forceful Guard, 2-piece Assist. All right. Now for the main stats, in slot 2 I have set. This is most likely going to be his best in slot in terms of slot 2. You can argue if you don't have high reflex, which you probably should, you can run like an awareness, but I think the flat set stat is way better than having like an awareness or strength here, because again, he's not that offensive. So might as well just go with his with the base set stat here. So for slot 4, this one is very dependent on his skill resonance and also the team that you're running with. So his best in slot technically will be reflex. So if you have a reflex here, that would be great, especially at SR1 and SR2, right? Because you want to get that reflex as high as possible, so he's able to crit on defense, which also converts his not awareness, his reflex to awareness whenever he sets as well. So reflex as high as possible. But when you get to SR4, you are getting 15% reflex from his SR4 alone. So that might, or that probably will, overcap his reflex if you do run a reflex slot here. So if you are running a reflex at SR4, you're going to be over 100% already. So it's not worth it because you're wasting those, those extra points in reflex where it could go somewhere else. As I said before, it also depends on the team that you're running him with, right? Because there's other characters, other players that can boost the reflex, and also he has bonds that he's able to boost reflex with as well. So for example, if you have a Kageyama and you're running him with Kageyama, he gets a 5% reflex right here. So there's just another 5% right there. Also, another thing is if you have his memory, it increases his reflex by a little amount here, so keep that in mind as well. And then if you're running him with Kenma, who increases the whole team's reflex, and you don't need as much reflex, so keep that in mind. Sakusa at, I believe, SR2, SR4, or SR2 right here, he's able to increase allied players' reflex. So keep that in mind, right? So if you do find yourself having enough reflex, the second best in slot at this point would be Receive or Spirit. So for slot 6, you have two options. You can run Defense Technique or you can run Receive. In my opinion, I do think Defense Technique is usually better in terms of a slot 6 here. But this Receive stat is still really good because I do have some pretty good Defense Technique and a set substats. So if you do have better substats on one rather than the other, you can use the one with the better substats. In terms of Receive as well for NISHINOYA specifically, for his SR4, if you do have him at SR4, the power of his Receive increases by 50% of his Receive stat. So by getting a higher Receive stat, you get more power based off this SR4, right? But Defense Technique does apply to the formula as a whole, right? So it might be better in that case if you don't have SR4. So keep that in mind. I do think, again, if you're running out SR1, SR2, defense technique is a little bit better than receive, but if you have better substats, run the one with better substats. Now for the substats, as I mentioned before, you want to be looking for reflex. That's probably your priority until you can get to 100 or close to 100 as close as possible, right? Once you get to that benchmark, you don't need reflex anymore, so you can look into spirit, defense technique, receive. So any of the defense stats in terms of receiving, these three here, receive, those are the ones you want to look for in terms of substats, but careful not to overcap on your reflex. And also you could look into some set stats as well. If you find any, it's not bad, but I would recommend focusing on your defense stats, as again, he's a libero and he wants to be as he wants his defense to be as strong as possible. So let's look at this memory. Increase the equipper's receive stat by 12%. When your equipper uses an ultimate, increases reflex and spirit by 0.6 and 1.2% respectively, stacking up to 5 times. If the equipper uses ultimates 2 or more times within 1 round, the equipper recovers 10 stamina and gains 8% defense technique, with the next ultimate use lasting for 2 net crossings. So this is, it looks really good. However, I believe it is a little bit tough to activate, especially this part right here where you need to ultimate 2 or more times within 1 rally. Especially at SR1, you will be, it's an 8 net crossing cooldown for his ultimate, and whenever your team gets a critical touch, that reduces by 1. So in that case, probably within 3 or 4 net crossings, you'll get your ultimate back, unless you have other ways to reduce ultimate cooldown, which I'm not sure anybody else has at the moment in terms of receive. But this is good if you're able to activate it kind of consistently, but at SR1 I don't see that happening. But because it is an SP memory and it's the only SP libero SP memory, it is still worth it to get, in my opinion, if you get Nishinoya. Okay. And if you get him at SR2, this will definitely be more worth it, since his SR2, his max cooldown for his ultimate is already 5, and his dependency on your team critting, it correlates to both, or translates to both your team and the other team. So you are able to reduce cooldown more often, which means you're able to ult more often. So this makes it easier to actually activate this second part here. So if you do have him SR2 or higher, I believe this is probably a must-pull memory for him. Now for alternative memories, if you do have Komori's memory, this would be the best alternative memory to use, right? So you get the equipper's receive stat increased by 12% still. You're getting a defense technique buff here for your back row. And this doesn't have a cooldown cooldown, because Nishinoya's has 2 net crossings. And this is only for him compared to Komori's, where it's the back row, right? So this is more team focused. And also you're able to recover stamina to your team with this memory, as well as increase their power / quick attack as well. So this is again more of a team-wide buffing type of memory compared to Nishinoya's, which just buffs itself. So if you do have it, you can use it, but you probably have Komori at that point as well. So if you do have Nishinoya, you do have Komori, you might have to share this between them, which that's up to you if you do want to do that. Other than that, we have SSR memories that we can use. I think the most generic SSR memory that we have is this one. This can be used on any libero. So you're getting the receive stat increase with 10%, and when the equipper performs a receive save, that is not bad. Allied players gain 8% defense techniques, stack up to 3 times, lasting for 1 turn. And again, if you have Nishinoya, he's probably going to be ulting more often than other liberos. So the ball will come to him more, which means that you can get this stack up quicker than usual. So this is a good generic memory for him. You also have specialty memories that you can use on him as well, like Yaku's, for example. If you're able to get a perfect receive, increases the next quick spike power by 60% of a quick attack stat. So if you're running a quick team, this could be worth it on Nishinoya, because again, if he's able to receive a lot, you're probably going to get this buff more often than not. So keep that in mind. And for the power side, you also have combis as well. So if you want to receive that is not bad, you get 10 morale, and your side's next power spike gains bonus power equal to 6% of the power attack stats. So you're able to increase power here. You also have, again, this liberal memory for power attack teams is also really good as well, right? So increases basic stats by 3.2, and then increases your next power spike power by 12%. So those are all really good. You do have a lot of options in terms of memories. So if you don't get his memory, it's not too bad. But since this is the only SP memory, other than Komori's, I guess, it might be a good pull for him. All right, that's going to be it for this one. I hope you guys found this one useful, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and also comment down below what you think of Nishinoya. Have you guys gotten him yet? Are you guys planning a pull for him or his memory? Yeah, let me know. And also subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. If you do want to see some more Haikyu Fly content, we'll get some more videos going out. We'll still be going live. I did my live earlier today as well for Nishinoya pulls, so if you did miss out on that live, the VOD is up on my channel. And also, if you have any questions, or if you just want to chat Haikyu Fly High, join the Discord. There's a link in the description to join the Discord. We do have, channels for advice and also just chatting about Haikyu and other games as well. So feel free to join that. And yeah, we'll see you in the Discord, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, peace.
Tamani kagero!